General Hospital will reveal lately, Tracy has become increasingly relentless in her quest to assert control over the Quartermain family, with Drew being her primary target. She sees him as an outsider, someone unworthy of bearing the Quartermain name, and is determined to sever any lingering ties between him and Jason once and for all. To Tracy, Drew is nothing more than an interloper who has no rightful claim to the family legacy, and she is willing to go to great lengths to erase any association he has with the Quartermains. Tracy has never hidden her disdain for Monica's children, and this time, she seizes every opportunity to tighten her grip on the situation, ensuring that Drew has no foothold left in the family. She strategically uses her influence and the power she wields within the Quartermain Empire to push him into a corner, setting traps that he cannot easily escape from. With each calculated move, she builds a case against him, subtly maneuvering events in a way that positions Drew as an expendable piece in her grander scheme. Tracy's tactics are not just about protecting the family name, they are deeply personal. She resents the idea of Drew claiming any part of what she considers to be the Quartermain inheritance, and more importantly, she refuses to acknowledge his bond with Jason. In her eyes, Drew is an imposter, a pretender who does not deserve the same recognition or loyalty that Jason has. She methodically orchestrates her plans, knowing that any action she takes against Drew will further solidify her dominance over the Quartermain legacy. With sharp precision, Tracy exploits every vulnerability Drew has, ensuring that he finds himself trapped in a web of manipulation from which escape seems impossible. Every move she makes is carefully designed to strip him of any claim to the family name, ultimately working to reinforce the divide between him and Jason. For Tracy, this is not just about control. It is about reaffirming her vision of the Quartermain dynasty and eliminating any element she deems unworthy. In the name of protecting Jason, Tracy leverages her power and the secrets she holds to force Drew into submission. She is fully aware that Drew is concealing the truth about Jason's alibi on the night of Cyrus's murder, and she recognizes this as the perfect weakness to exploit. With a meticulously crafted plan, she applies relentless pressure, coercing Drew to alter his testimony. If he refuses, she threatens to expose damaging secrets that could strip him of everything: his reputation, his career, and even his personal relationships. Tracy's strategy is ruthless and calculated. She knows exactly which strings to pull and how to manipulate the situation to her advantage. Her influence within the Quartermain family gives her an edge, allowing her to dictate the terms while leaving Drew with no room to escape. What makes her scheme even more insidious is that saving Jason is not her only goal. She intends to completely dismantle Drew's standing within the Quartermain legacy. For her, this is an opportunity to erase his presence from the family's history, ensuring that he holds no claim, no influence, and no recognition as a true Quartermain. With her signature precision, Tracy turns Drew's silence into a weapon against him, tightening her grip until he is left with no viable choice but to comply. This is not just about Jason's freedom, it is about ensuring that Drew pays the ultimate price for daring to stand in her way. Every move she makes is designed to serve her long-term vision, a Quartermain dynasty free of unwanted intrusions, where she holds the ultimate authority over who belongs and who does not. Drew, in his desperate attempt to maintain his relationship with Willow, naively believed that he could negotiate with Tracy without facing any dire consequences. He convinced himself that he could navigate the treacherous waters of Quartermain family politics while still preserving the delicate balance of his personal life. But in doing so, he failed to recognize the depth of Tracy's cunning and the inevitable cost of crossing paths with her. He underestimated just how much he stood to lose, not only within the family but also in the one relationship he thought he could rely on. What Drew did not realize was that Willow, too, harbored secrets of her own, secrets that could ultimately shape the course of their relationship in ways he had never anticipated. He had placed his trust in her unwavering support, believing that she would stand by his side regardless of the challenges ahead. But loyalty is a fragile thing, especially when built on half-truths and hidden motives. Unbeknownst to him, Willow's faith in their relationship was not as steadfast as he had assumed. She had begun to question his choices, his willingness to bend the truth, and the compromises he was willing to make to keep his own secrets buried. As Tracy's manipulations unraveled and Drew's actions came to light, the truth became impossible to ignore. The weight of his deception, combined with the undeniable influence Tracy wielded, would inevitably push Willow to reconsider her place in his life. For her, the revelation of his involvement in Jason's case and his willingness to lie would be the final straw. She had already endured enough betrayals and disappointments, and this was not a burden she was willing to carry. When the time came, she would not hesitate to walk away. Unlike Drew, who had fought so hard to keep their relationship intact, Willow saw no reason to remain tethered to a man whose choices had become too entangled with secrecy and manipulation. With her departure, Drew would find himself utterly alone, abandoned by the one person he thought he could count on. His blind optimism, his misguided belief that he could keep everything together, would ultimately lead him into complete isolation. Tracy would have played her game to perfection, not only dismantling his place within the Quartermain family but also ensuring that he had no one left to turn to. Backed into a corner by Tracy's relentless pressure, Drew scrambled to find an alternative solution, one that could exonerate Jason without completely destroying his own life in the process. He knew that surrendering to Tracy's demands would mean forfeiting every ounce of control he had left, so he attempted to outmaneuver her with a carefully crafted deception. In a desperate bid to shield both himself and Jason, he fabricated an alternate alibi, going as far as to arrange for a false witness who could attest that Jason had not been present at the scene of the crime the night Cyrus was murdered. For a brief moment, Drew believed he had managed to gain the upper hand. He thought that by creating this new narrative, he could keep Jason safe while also protecting his own secrets. But his confidence was misplaced. Tracy had anticipated his every move, and the power she wielded over him was far greater than he had allowed himself to believe. She still possessed the ultimate weapon against him, the damning video that could bring his entire world crashing down in an instant. The footage she held was more than just leverage, it was a ticking time bomb capable of obliterating everything Drew had fought to preserve. With a single revelation, Tracy could not only expose his lies but also destroy his most important relationships. If she chose to release the video, Willow would see the full extent of his deception, leaving her no choice but to abandon him. Any hope of salvaging their fragile relationship would be gone, replaced by the cold certainty that he had deceived her for his own self-preservation. But perhaps the most devastating consequence of all was the risk of losing Jason. Drew had fought to protect his brother, believing that his actions were in Jason's best interest. Yet, if the truth about his fabricated alibi came to light, Jason himself might reject him, viewing him as nothing more than a liability, a man willing to manipulate the truth in a way that could have ultimately harmed him. The trust they had built, the bond they had formed despite their complicated past, could be shattered in an instant. As Drew watched his carefully constructed plan unravel, he realized that there was no escaping the trap Tracy had set for him. No matter how many alternative solutions he attempted, she always remained one step ahead. She held all the power, and he had nowhere left to turn. In the end, once Jason was fully exonerated and granted his freedom, there was nothing left to hold Tracy back. She had no reason to keep the truth hidden any longer, and with her goal of securing Jason's safety accomplished, she turned her attention to the final stage of her ruthless plan, completely dismantling Drew's standing within the Quartermain family. With calculated precision, she used the damning video she had kept as leverage, releasing it at the exact moment when Drew had the least power to fight back. The fallout was immediate and catastrophic. What had once been mere speculation or carefully guarded whispers now became an undeniable reality. Drew had lied. He had manipulated the truth, attempted to deceive the family, and in the process, compromised everything he held dear. The consequences of his actions were swift and severe. The Quartermains, a family that had always been divided yet bound by a strict sense of loyalty to those they deemed worthy, saw no place for him among them anymore. He was cast out, stripped of whatever influence he once held, and left to bear the weight of his own downfall. But the most devastating betrayal came not from the family but from Willow. The woman he had fought so hard to keep, the one he had believed in despite Tracy's warnings and manipulations, did not hesitate for a second once the truth was revealed. When she discovered the extent of Drew's deception, there was no room for forgiveness, no chance for understanding. She walked away without looking back, unwilling to be with a man who had built their relationship on falsehoods and selfish calculations. Isolated and abandoned, Drew was forced to confront the brutal reality that every choice he had made, every concession he had given to Tracy, had led him to this moment. In his misguided attempts to preserve his position and protect Jason, he had lost everything: his integrity, his family, and the one person who had once stood by him. The weight of his defeat was crushing, and for the first time, he saw Tracy for what she truly was: an unyielding force, a master strategist who had played the long game with ruthless efficiency. Meanwhile, Tracy stood victorious. She had eliminated any threat to her vision of the Quartermain legacy, ensuring that Jason remained the only true heir she recognized. Her authority within the family was now unquestioned, her control absolute. With Drew's downfall complete, she had solidified her position as the family's true matriarch, the ultimate power behind the Quartermain dynasty. There was no one left to challenge her, no one to undo what she had set in motion. Drew had been nothing more than a temporary obstacle, a pawn in a much larger game that Tracy had won without ever breaking a sweat. Tracy's plan, no matter how carefully crafted, was never foolproof. While she had calculated every move with precision, she failed to anticipate one critical factor: the enduring legacy of Monica, the very sister she had spent a lifetime at odds with. Monica's passing left an irreplaceable void in the Quartermain family, and while Tracy saw it as an opportunity to tighten her grip on the family's wealth and power, she overlooked the emotional bonds that remained, even in the face of betrayal. For years, Tracy had treated Monica's children with disdain, making it clear that she never considered them true Quartermains. She had believed that by dismantling Drew's position in the family, she could rewrite history, ensuring that Jason was the only rightful heir. However, in her arrogance, she underestimated the deep sense of loss that Monica's death would bring, not just to the family but especially to Drew and Jason. They might not have always seen eye to eye, but the realization that Monica's legacy was now at risk forced them to reassess everything. Drew, abandoned and betrayed, could have easily succumbed to despair, allowing Tracy's schemes to fully take effect. But instead, he found clarity in his lowest moment. The loss of Monica meant that the final remnants of her influence, the values she upheld, the home she built, the love she gave, were now under threat. If he did nothing, Tracy would erase all that she had worked for, twisting the family name into something unrecognizable. More importantly, Drew came to see that his greatest failure had not been deceiving Willow or losing the Quartermain name, but neglecting the one person who truly needed him, his daughter, Scout. With newfound determination, Drew refused to let Tracy's manipulations define his fate. He reached out to Jason, the one person who had always understood the importance of family, even when their lives had taken them in different directions. Despite their past differences, Jason recognized that Monica's legacy needed to be preserved, and for the first time in years, he and Drew stood united, not as adversaries, not as reluctant allies, but as brothers. Together, they began to push back against Tracy's iron grip, determined to stop her from destroying everything that Monica had left behind. They weren't just fighting for themselves, but for the family Monica had spent her life protecting. In doing so, they turned Tracy's own arrogance against her. She had assumed that by breaking Drew, she could isolate Jason and secure her control. Instead, she had driven the two brothers closer together, forging a bond that even she couldn't shatter. Tracy's plans, once so methodically orchestrated, began to crumble under the weight of her own overconfidence. She had underestimated Drew's resilience, Jason's loyalty, and the power of a family united. And in the end, despite all her scheming, it was love for Monica, love for Scout, and love for the true Quartermain legacy, that proved to be the force she could not defeat. The upcoming developments in General Hospital promise to be thrilling as the battle for the Quartermain legacy intensifies. With Drew and Jason finally standing together against Tracy's ruthless schemes, the stakes are higher than ever. Will they be able to outmaneuver her and reclaim what rightfully belongs to Monica's family? Or will Tracy find a way to tighten her grip and secure her vision of the Quartermain Empire? As alliances shift and hidden truths come to light, betrayals, unexpected twists, and emotional reckonings will shake Port Charles. The Quartermain family is on the brink of a major turning point, and every move will have lasting consequences. Stay tuned for all the drama, surprises, and power struggles ahead on General Hospital.